Shalom, everybody. Rabbi Shapira. We are in a very serious time right now in human history. Yeshua teaches us that the days that he will return will be the days of Noah. And because of that, we're releasing a two-part series for you, our viewers, to understand and to explain to you what is the days of Noah. As you know, I wrote the book, The New Hamas. Now, this book is a book that I urge everybody to get. The Lord laid this book upon my heart already before October the 7th. October the 7th just gave me the final trigger to release it to you. And today, during this week of Parashat Noah, we are going to enter into the day of Noah, to this very special series that is coming before you. I urge you to listen to part 1 and to part 2. Now, part 1 is being a course inside our yeshiva. And today I'm happy to add you to be in our yeshiva, a student in Yeshivat Shuvu International for those last days. So, as those days are days of darkness, as those days are days that we do not know what tomorrow will lead, I'm going to tell you something. I know that Hashem is going to be speaking to you in a very real way in those days, in our days. This is part 1. I urge you, read the New Hamas, read the Fall of Edom. Hashem have a message for you. Part 1 today, and then later on you will receive part 2. Let's enter in. I would appreciate everybody go and check out this book, The New Hamas. Those days of Hamas, the days of Noah, are upon us. This is based on the lecture and introduction. Let's go to the shiur. Shalom, everybody, and welcome to a very special course, Decoding the New Hamas, the great organized chaos, and the coming of Mashiach. My name is Rabbi Dr. Yitzhak Shapira, and I am the author of this new book. And today we are going to start our journey together into understanding some things behind the book. I didn't want to give you a course where I basically replicate the book itself. I wanted to give you an additional content, additional understanding, so that you can truly prepare yourself for these days ahead. So over the next few lessons, we're going to dive into some specific areas that I feel are appropriate and necessary for us to zoom in into understanding the things ahead. Now, we have to understand that there are 3 foundational questions that arise, at least in my mind, from this book and from this incident that we have seen in Israel over these tragic events that have taken place. And I think we all have to, as followers of Messiah, and understanding that we are living in times that is called Acharit Ayamim, have to ask ourselves 3 foundational questions. Number 1, how did it happen? Meaning, how did something like that could have taken place when specifically, how did they breach the wall and how they were able to come into Israel, the Hamas? Question number 2, who responsible for who has the ultimate responsibility for this tragic event, but also for the success on the Hamas side of being able to come to Israel and take so many hostages and to do all these terror attacks that they have done. And number 3, how can we overcome this in the days ahead? And how can we make sure that this is contained and this is being defeated? And I use the word this intentionally because we have to define the this. Now, of course, as you read the book, you see that the Bible has already been prophesying about our days. It's been clearly prophesying about these attacks. It's been prophesying about everything is being prophesied, from the hostages to the tunnels to the beheading to Gaza to what's going to happen to Gaza. Everything has been prophesied. But as student of prophecy, there are several principles that we're going to look at throughout the course that I believe are very important for us to understand in the days ahead as we're moving forward in trying to get a grasp of what is happening in Israel. I've specifically outlined for you 7 principles, and I'm not going to go through all of them in great details, but I think it's important to understand them and to list them as we're understanding prophecy before our eyes. Number 1, we have this expression, Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim. We're going to look at that. Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim, meaning that God is giving us a roadmap from the fathers to us, the sons, today. Number 2, what I call from a closed mem to an open man. This is a very important principle. It's going to be one of the main principles we're looking at today, meaning God wants to reveal himself in the world, but there is a transition of how God is going to reveal himself to the world, and we need to understand the transition of how God will choose to reveal himself in the world. This is something very important. Number 3, this is important. Deuteronomy chapter 34 says, "Velo kam navi b'Yisrael ke Moshe." We got to treat the Torah as the book of prophecy. Moses is the greatest prophet according to the Torah itself. So we have to look at Moses' life, brothers and sisters. We have to look at Moses' life as prophecy. Moses, the Torah, is the greatest prophetic tool before us into understanding what is happening right at this moment in Israel. So please make yourself a mental note. Moses is not just the giver of the Torah, the giver of the law. He is also a prophet. Number 4, Ma she'aya ihyeh, meaning that all prophecy is cyclical in nature. If we want to understand the conflict, if we want to understand the Hamas, we have to go backwards. We have to go backwards and understand them in a proper setting. This is very important, brothers and sisters, that we will do that. And number 5, for the sake of Mashiach, I call this one, number 5, meaning that everything that is happening on the world, for good and for bad, it's only for one thing: to hasten the coming of the Mashiach. All things are done for the sake of our Messiah, for his coming and his return. Number 6, the mirror of the Shamayim and the Aretz. This is a very important principle. Everybody have to understand that whatever there is happening in the earth has a mirror, a heavenly mirror into the heavens. So we, brothers and sisters, have to look at this in these things that are happening right now, not just through the lens of the Aretz, but also through the lens of the Shamayim, of the heavens. So we're going to have to understand the connection in what's happening right now with the Hamas on the physical earth. What does it have to do with the spiritual side of things and the heavenly side of things? That's something that we absolutely have to do. And then number 7, this is an important principle. God call it midah keneged midah. This principle, midah keneged midah, mean that God always give measure for measure. All of those principles are important into understanding not just what's happening now, but what we can expect to happen in the days ahead. Now there's this chief principle, you heard me mention it, Ma she'aya yeh. And this is the way it's written by King Solomon in Ecclesiastes. He says this, Ma she'aya hiyu she'iyeh, u'ma she'ne'esa u'shu ya'aseh, ve'en kol chadash tachat hashemesh. Only that shall happen which has happened, only that occur which has occurred. There is nothing new under the sun or beneath the sun. That means that all prophecy is past, is present, and it is future. All prophecies, friends, are truly cyclical in nature, and definitely the battle of Israel here with the Hamas is not round one, it's not round two, it's something that is going back to the generations of the foundation of the universe. And what we have to do, we have to connect the foundation of the universe into our living world today and understand the connection between these two. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand the physical, because this physicality that we're dealing with, as you see on your screen right now, the fans are being opened up in a supernatural way. A fence that was having electricity to be electrocuted has been breached. And the question is, how did it happen? And who is behind this? This is all a significant question for us to answer. Now remember what I told you a moment ago. I told you a moment ago that all prophecy is cyclical. And we have been given a map guide on how to approach nevuah, how to approach prophecies. And here in this principle, I would like to quote some specifically from Nachmanides on Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim. Listen to what it says. That the patriarch's mode of conduct should serve as a model for their descendants when they find themselves in similar circumstances. Praise be to God that we can have a model specifically on a time of the Galut. The time of the Galut is a time of exile, is a time that Israel being persecuted like Israel being persecuted today, when Israel being abused like Israel being abused today, when Israel being rejected, when Israel being despised. The fathers went through the same thing, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and thankfully they left us a roadmap on how to attack those things and how to go after those things and how to behave in those things. At the end of the day, we have to understand how to behave in the days ahead. Even the Brit HaChadashah asked the question, what kind of people are you going to be in the last days? Listen to what it says in Tur Aroch on the time of Galut, meaning before the coming of the Mashiach. It says the following: we are to refrain from becoming chummy, meaning friendly, with the secular authorities of the country which host us when we are in exile. Seeing then friendliness by such rulers reflect only what they can get out of us and not what we can get out of them. This is important to understand. We are in a time of a spiritual galut right now that we pray every day in Shacharit, in Mincha, in Aravit. Amachzir Shchinato LeTzion, where we're crying out to Veshikaina to return to Zion. And even what's happening right now in Israel should explain to us how much we need God, how much we need His protection, how much we need His ashkacha, how much we need His supervision. Now the rabbis, the works of the Father, the Son of the Son, to the sons, have derived this law from the relationship between Jacob and Esau. This is going to be very important to us as we are decoding some of the aspect of our new book. Now listen to what it says about them by our sages. And I quote, "The years of Yaakov's life were 147 years. The Parasha is closed," meaning we do not have a customary separation of words, lines, or letters between the last portion and this one. There are two reasons for this. Pay attention. The exile was about to start, and the hearts of the Israelites become closed due to the progressive increasing difficulties in their daily life. I want to stop there because this is going to be very important to us as we're trying to understand the answer. How come the wall was opened up? Today we're going to look at the Bible and try to get the answer to this question. Now the rabbis tell us here, in the life of Jacob, there is a time and there is a season where the exile was to become, and Israelites' heart were closed. The Israelites' heart was closed. Now listen to the second reason that is mentioned. Yaakov wanted to compensate for their feeling that the deterioration in their lives was about to take place by revealing to them the glorious future in store for them after the redemption. Every time that we see this concept of something that is closed and something that is open, the rabbis tell us, there is something you need to know about this. It's related to Geulah. Just by the sheer facts that the wall was open, we know already we are dealing with the topic of Geulah. This is important. We are in a time of Geulah. We are in a time of redemption. Let's continue forward. However, he was unable to do so. Why? In other words, Yaakov's channels of communication with the celestial region had become closed. He had announced that he would reveal them what will befall you in the end of the days, in Genesis 49:1. When reading what follows it, become clear that this is not what Yaakov announced. The end of days. Yaakov had in mind that the exile in which we find ourselves now, not the exile of Egypt or Babylon, seeing that Yaakov was the third patriarch in the reasonable that his life should be foreshadowed experience of the Jewish people during the third exile, the final exile. This is amazing. Jacob is prophesying about another exile, not the Corinth exile, but an exile that's going to be leading to the redemption, a spiritual exile. He's talking about our time today, brothers and sisters. Jacob has been prophesying about our moments here today. Let's continue. In any rate, God would not let him reveal these matters. And even Daniel, in Daniel 12:9, state that this matter remained sealed secret until the end of the exile. Our sages felt that Daniel had known about this development, and this is why the angel had to tell him to be obscure of this matter. This is very important, brothers and sisters. That there is something here in the text when Yaakov is really leading to 147. The Torah is wanting to tell us that there are things that are sealed and we do not understand them. Only the Malachim understand them. And I think what we have to do his followers of Mashiach, do not just look at what happened in Israel right now in a humanistic way and say, oh, there was a military screw up, or oh, Iran has been training them, oh, somebody fell asleep. No, there is much more than that. And the rabbi is telling us here, based on the book of Daniel, that there are things that are known in the heavens, but they are not known on the earth. Now, listen to the continuation of what Chazal is telling us. Because remember, it's close. The entire parasha is what's called a closed parasha. A parasha without interpretation. There's also a closed story because Jacob about to tell them something and he ended up not telling them. It's called a closed redemption. A closed Geulah, a Geulah that is concealed. But here the rabbis continue on this and they say, Isaiah said something similar in Isaiah 9:6 when we read, Lamarbeh misra ve'leshalom ein ketz. The final letter, mem, is in the middle of the word lemarbeh, where we should have had a regular open letter, mem. Is a warning that whatever the areas in which Israel excel, these will not be in evidence during their exile. The prophet seems to be saying that every attempt to usher redemption through Torah study, through establishing God's authority on earth, etc., will not affect God's timetable. Remember, the Geulah can be hastened or God can do it according to his own table. In Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6, we see this mem that is sealed until God decides to open it. And the fact that you're seeing right now a gate that should not be opened up, a wall that should be closed, opened up, it should be a warning sign to all of you that the redemption is indeed at hand and near. Now continue on with this. Listen to what it says. It is interesting that we find exactly the reverse phenomena in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 2, verse 13. Now it's going to start to become very interesting to you, where an open letter, also the letter mem, appears at the end of the word. Bechumot Yerushalayim hem amefrutzim. The walls of Yerushalayim, which are broken down. Brothers and sisters, what have we just experienced? The walls of Israel, when you hear the word Yerushalayim, he's talking about all of Klal Israel. The walls of Yerushalayim had a bridge. The word prutzim literally have two interpretations. It means to be a prostitute, and you know what a prostitute does. And it's also meant to be open up. The same thing. And this is important because there are two aspects. In Isaiah 9:6, we see that the mem is closed. But here in Nehemiah 2:13, it is open. And he's speaking about the wall that is going to be connected for the coming of the Mashiach. You see, in one place the mem is closed. But in another place, the mem at the end is open. Listen to what it says. A Midrash comments on this verse that this is an allusion that whereas when the walls of Jerusalem, which are now open, meaning broken down, were still closed, intact, such as during the period of the temple, God's authority which has been closed, meaning not in evidence during the period, will re-emerge and reassert itself as a result of the Jewish people learning their lesson during the time of a harsh exile. The fact that the walls of Yerushalayim are open up. Remember, brothers and sisters, that Zion belongs to Hashem. But the openness that is happening right now in the breach of the walls should be a sign, a warning sign for all of us that the return of the Lord is imminent. But wait, the rabbis did not conclude it there. They continue. Listen to this. Just as the two letters mem in the verses we have quoted from Isaiah and from Nehemiah respectively contain allusions to matters hidden from us, so the usual absence of a division between the two portions in Parashat Vayigash and Parashat Vayechi, as they also contain allusion to the matters hidden from us, hidden from Yaakov, hidden from Israel, hidden from the Jewish people. In essence, what the rabbi said, the reason that there is this close mem in the life of Jacob and the connection to Isaiah and Nehemiah, where you have the letters flipped and reversed, where you should have an open mem and you have a closed mem, and you should have a closed mem and you have an open mem. It's talking about the things that are hidden. And the things that we need to understand today that are hidden is what on the earth could have caused something so tragic, something so terrible to happen to the apple of God's eyes. Here is the question that I want you to think about. Why was the fence hidden from Jacob? Right? The closed mem. Why was it hidden from Jacob? And even the question, by whom? Because brothers and sisters, I hope you heard the interview that I had from Adi Karmi. And I asked him, one of the heads of the Shabak, and I was asking him, please Adi Karmi, tell me, how is it even feasible? How is it even possible that something like that will take place? And Mr. Karmi has told me, he answered to me, and he said, I do not have logical explanation to what is taking place. Why? Because exactly what the rabbis are telling us. There's going to be the things that referring and relating to the coming of the Mashiach that are going to be hidden from Jacob. Okay? There are certain things that happened here that are mystery for Jacob. And we, as informed believers in the Bible, have to try to find the answer. How it's possible that God blinded. There's no other way to explain it. That God has blinded the eyes of the Jewish people. He has blinded their eyes to not able to see it, and not to be able to see those terrorists coming and taking their hostages. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Why? Because there are things in the coming of the last days that are a mystery to us. In the book, I start to allude for the reason of the blindness of Israel. And even in this moment, still the blindness continue. We have to understand it because it's coming soon after us. So it's speaking here in the context of Nehemiah about the walls are being broken as a sign that this is the last days and soon the coming of the Mashiach. Now listen to the word of Ezekiel chapter 22 verse 30 as they come to describe to us exactly what's happened in Gaza. It says, ויבקש מהם איש גודר גדר ועומד בפרץ לפניי בעד הארץ לבלתי שחטה ולא מצאתי. And I sought someone among them to repair the wall, my goodness, or to stand in the breach before me in behalf of this land, that I might not destroy it, but I found none. It's these verses hit you right now in the heart. God is even giving us a reason why this is happening. Now, in your screen right now, you see different colors of different words in Hebrew. Let's try to learn together Hebrew before we look at the commentators. It says here in the text, Va'efakesh ma'em ish. First of all, notice who is the one who is not seeking. He say, I sought somebody, but no, in Hebrew, the bakasha, I am pleading for that. I want you to understand today, brothers and sisters, that God is pleading for somebody to stand in the gap. Because there is a physical wall and there is a spiritual wall. The reason that the terrorists were able to come inside Israel is not because there was no physical wall, it's because of the spiritual wall, the spiritual mantle that was a lifting up from Israel. We have to understand this. And look what he says. He says there, Va'efakesh me'em ish, I am looking for a remnant. I am begging, I'm asking for, as God says, Goder Gader, which is important because if you see it in Hebrew, you read the same word twice. Gader Gader. It seems like it's read Gader Gader, but it's interesting that the same word that is that is appearing here, it's appearing here both on the noun and it's appearing here both on the verb. Goder is the one who established the fence, and Gader is the fencer. So it's like saying the establisher of the fence. When we're talking about fence in biblical terms, we are talking about protection. And the idea behind the Torah here, that we see it all the time, that protection and safety come from within, not just from the heaven, it's come from within to all of Israel. I am looking for defenders, he's saying. Some defenders of Israel. This is so amazing that we are seeing it here in the text. Goder, Gader is the word. And then he says, Ve'omed ba'peretz. The word omed is like the word amidah, means standing in the peretz, standing in a broken wall, in a broken fence. You ask yourself the question, Israel with all their defenses, with all the forces, how come nobody was watching the fence? Where were the watchmen to watch the fence? And here the Bible tells us where they were. It says, I could not find any. I had found none. Velo matzati. I didn't find a single one that will be able to stand. Remember what I told you earlier today, that the physical is a picture of the spiritual, beloved. So important for us to understand. He wanted to find the one who will stand for the peretz, which is interesting because the Hebrew word peretz, poretz, the peretz is something very negative. It's a breach. But the word peretz also is one of the name of Mashiach. So one of the ways that we can interpret this verse, I wanted to find somebody who will stand for Mashiach, and I could find none. Why? Because he say, I want him to stand lefanai, to be transparent with me. But here is in yellow, you see on your screen, be'ad haaretz, for the sake of the people. In essence, God says, I was looking for somebody who will stand for the sake of the people. What has been happening in Israel in the last 2 years, brothers and sisters? Everybody standing against everybody else. Every Jew is standing, and then another Jew. Brothers and sisters, you need to know the truth of what's happening in Israel. And we are going to be talking about this in the very next episode, because we have to understand what is this Sinat Chinam look like. Be'ad ha'aretz, not for the land, for the people. I wanted somebody to stand for the people. Why? So I will not shachta, from the word shochet, from the word the destroyer. Where is the first time, brothers and sisters, that we are going to see this word destroyer mentioned? It is mentioned for the first time, brothers and sisters, in the story of Noah and the generation of the flood, where it says in the text that I am going to be sending the Mashchit, the destroyer. By the way, I explained in the book, the Mashchit, the destroyer, is the word Mashiach Tam. The destroyer is the Messiah himself. Why? Because he's a judge. He's coming to judge. The Mashchit. He's coming as a destroyer, beloved. But as he coming as a destroyer, he says, I could not find a person, therefore I have to send the Mashchit. Understand something what I'm telling you today? That God does not want to destroy the world, but He created the world in half mercy and half judgment. And if there is not more mercy than judgment, He by definition have to destroy the world and do a great reset for all of humanity, because He's a just God. He is a just God. And He's going to do things justly in those days. And we should know that and understand it, that He is truly a just God. He doesn't want to bring the Mashchit. He wants to bring, on the contrary, He wants to bring healing to the land. But He says, I have found none. Certain things that are happening, like what we have experienced, are hidden intentionally from the eyes of Israel for this purpose. And we are trying to understand. So I explained to you that there has been a closing and an opening of a letter of Mem. Both represent the coming of Mashiach. And the open Mem, like in the walls that were open, is a sign that the redemption, that the Geulah are near. We learned that in the last year. And again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to try to answer it. But we're still left with a fundamental question that we have to answer today. We look at those different principles, like the work of the fathers, the sign for the Son. An example, Mashiach, what have happened will happen again. And Midah Keneged Midah, we will look at in the days ahead, and many, many more. But the fundamental question that we have to ask ourselves is this: why was the fence hidden from Jacob? And by whom, and how is it possible? In the last shiur, I started to answer this question, and we look at Ezekiel 22:30. Today we'll be also in Isaiah in the next two shiurim. But in Ezekiel 22:30, because this word that is appearing in the text twice, goder, gader, is the key for us. God says, I looked for a person or for people to be those who are established of the fence, and they standing in a place called the Peretz, which today we'll understand why it's so important, for the sake of the people. But because I didn't want to destroy the land, but I could not find one. This is very important today, that we understand that God is looking today for a spiritual fence for the people of Israel. And He's been looking for that now for the last 2 years. But Israel has turned against itself. You should know the truth. As a matter of fact, the same prophet, the prophet Ezekiel, repeat the same thing that we have just heard in Ezekiel 22. Is repeated in Ezekiel 13:5. Listen to this. לא עליתם בפרצות
ותגדרו גדר על בית ישראל, לעמוד במלחמה ביום אדוני. You did not enter the breaches and repair of the wall. My goodness! For the house of Israel, that they might stand up to the battle in the day of the Lord. When we see what is happening right now in Israel, and we see those passages from Ezekiel, you know, brothers and sisters, that the day on the Lord is imminent. And he is accusing them. He said, you were not willing to be part of the repair of Israel, the repair of the breach of Israel. And when we're talking about a breach here, or this fence here, and the breaches here, we are talking about spiritual breaches, not physical breaches. Remember, God created the heaven and the earth in parallel. There is a spiritual force that is being breached around Israel that allow Hamas to come on in to the land. And here he says, it's talking today, you were unwilling to be a repairer of the walls of Israel. Who is he talking about? What does that mean? Does that mean that we did not buy enough F-16s? Does that mean we don't have enough tanks? Does that mean that our intelligence or the IDF are not strong enough? I don't think so. I don't think so, neither the rabbis of Israel. Listen to what Rashi says in connotation to both Ezekiel 13 and in connotation to Ezekiel 22. And I quote, "Velo asitem ma'asechem tovim tochlu le'akev ara'a." My goodness, you did not perform the mitzvot to delay the evil. Who is the one who is coming to Israel today? Who is this Hamas? You have one word for the Hamas, is the word evil. Evil. The word Hamas, according to the Targum, is translated in Aramaic, both in Onkelos, both in Targum Yonatan, as the word kidnappers. What did Israel has been dealing with right now? With kidnappers. Those who kidnap. Why were the kidnappers allowed to come into the Israel? Why were they successful? Rashi is giving us an answer today that we all have to digest, and digest it clearly, because the Hamas, the kidnappers, that's the Aramaic word, have another word to it. And it's the word evil. And here Rashi is telling us that all of it is taking place because we did not perform enough mitzvot. Which mitzvot does Rashi is speaking about, brothers and sisters? Ve'ahavta lereacha kamocha. You should love your neighbor as yourself. We are talking about a mitzvot bein adam lechavero. It's not a coincidence that this has taken place in Simchat Torah. Do you know that 3 days before that, secular Jews and religious Jews were arguing whether or not we should process the Torah in the center of Dizengoff, in the center of Tel Aviv, not to be around those secular Israelis. I am not blaming any group here, because this spirit has been already breached the physical wall of Israel. You have to understand it. Rashi is correct. It's the lack of mitzvot, it's the lack of Ahavat Israel who has brought this Holocaust upon all of Israel. We need to know the truth. But Rashi is not alone in this interpretation. Listen to what the Radak, Rabbi David Kimchi, say on the same exact verse. And I read you straight from the Hebrew. Klomar, beyom af Adonai ugizrato, וכן תרגם יונתן ביום רוגזה דאדוני, כי אם עשיתם כן מעשיכם, היו עומדים לכם במלחמה, ולא הייתה שולטת בכם יד אויביכם. In the day of the Lord is when the decree according to Hamas happened. תרגום יונתן. Can it be that we have entered already right now to the day of the Lord? I am not here to tell you that we have entered to the day of the Lord already, but even those prophecies, not something that happened like that, friends. This is not prophecy. They are more like taking water, putting on the pot, and let the water boil. There is a transition for even the Yom Adonai to come, the day of the Lord. And it could be very well that the decree that bringing the day of the Lord right now that is taking happen, it's called in Hebrew, look in the Aramaic, it says the Radak, Bayom Rogza of Hashem. Which means the day that Hashem got angry. Wait a second, Rabbi Shapira, are you telling me that is Hashem behind it? I thought that the terrorists are the bad guys. I want to explain to you very much that the Holocaust that took place on October the 7th is a direct product of our doing. Not God doing. God, however, seen it. And he know what he has called the Jewish people to be like. So he's saying, time out, I'm taking out time out, and I'm doing a reset here. Our people, my chosen people are going the wrong way. And because they are going away, I am going to do exactly what Targum Yonatan translates, Bayom Rogza. It's like saying the day God became angry with us. Make no mistake, God is judging us today for this. But listen to what it says here. The Radak says, if you do mitzvot, your action will count as merit or in merit during the war. Otherwise, the enemy will control you. Unbelievable. Israel has been losing this war, have been blinded because the enemy right now is controlling Israel. You say, what? You want to tell me that Hamas right now controlling Israel? That is exactly what I am telling you, because you have to understand who is behind Hamas and why is he doing this to Israel. So in a way, God used Hamas today to even bring Israel to a defeat for one purpose, so that Israel will turn back to Hashem, that Israel will turn back to God. Later on, we will look at the Radak and we'll see why it is so critical for Israel to turn back to God. But wait, we're not done with the commentators, because the commentators here truly speak about this in one accord. The breach in the wall of Gaza, supernaturally, in the walls of Israel, in the walls of Jerusalem, is not because Hamas is so great. It's because we have failed one another. It says in the book of Vayikra, "Vekashlu ish ba'avonotam," and they have stumbled each in his brother's sin. What a shocking message to us. You see, Chomat Anak coming here and making the same point. And it says, I was looking for somebody to rebuke them or to be an intercessor from the decree. This is the meaning of the word, that I might not destroy it, but I have found none. I have found none. God is saying here in the text, I was looking for somebody who will stand for what is right. The word in Hebrew, rebuke, means to prove them. I was looking for somebody who will stand for my name. I'm not looking for a politician. I am looking for those who will stand for me. And you probably say, what do you mean? All the religious Jews in Israel, those wearing black and white, they're standing for God. No, they're not. No, they are not. So much baseless hatred that there is so little merit. And now he's saying exactly who is he looking for. I am looking for the intercessor from the decree. But I could not find a single intercessor to stand in the gap for Israel. An intercessor, somebody that stands between God and between Israel. Who is the person that can stand between God and between Israel? It's a mediator. It's a Mashiach. It's a Mashiach. Israel today need a Mashiach to stand and intercede in the gap for them. And the reason that God is bringing this upon Israel right now is because He wants to see Mashiach coming back to His people so that we'll turn away from the F-16. We turn away from the tanks. We turn away from this. And first and foremost, look at the only one who can save us from this mess. When this mess will end up? Only when Israel turn to Hashem Himself. But wait, the Malbim even go a step further, and he said, and I quote, I was looking for someone, who will repair the breaches of the generation, or at least to stand in the gap, and that his merit will protect the generation, so that the destroyer will not come and harm. But he found none. Listen to what the Malbim is telling us here, brothers and sisters. I was looking for somebody, because I am pleading, I am begging, the Malbim explains, who's somebody who will repair the spiritual breaches, okay, of the generation, or at least to stand in the gap, and that is this merit that will protect the entire generation so that the destroyer will not come and harm. But he found none, therefore I will pour out my indignation, which is the great judgment. What a shocking message for us today. What Israel is needing is somebody who is a protector of the generation, a savior of the generation, somebody like a Mashiach, and somebody who can bring zechut, merit to Israel. This is important to understand, that when Israel do action of the Torah, there is zchut, there is a merit. But when Israel have baseless hatred among us, there is the chovah. And what it's saying here, there was not enough chovah, there was not enough zchut, there's so much chovah, that God looked at the Jewish people, He said, wait a second, I'm looking at the Jewish people, I'm looking at the apples of my eyes, and I am seeing that there is not enough zchut. God doesn't like it. Do you think God wants to destroy anybody or anything? No. He wants His people. He wants His apple of His eyes. He wanted so much that He says, I will do everything in my power to bring Him back, even if it's mean that I have to make a hole in the fence in Israel and to hurt them and to punish them. Why? So that they will return back to me. I know that this is hard for us to think about this in the context of what is happening, but you have to understand that the physical Hamas that Israel is dealing with right now is just a pawn. It's a pawn in those great scheme of things of what is happening. God allow evil. God allow chaos. He is allowing it in order to have his people back right now. But God allowed it, but it is us who choose it. I want to make it very clear for everybody here. And the Radak go on and said, he said, perhaps, maybe, there is a man who will fence the breaches so that they wicked will not cross over. The breaches are the transgressions. And the one who is standing in the gap prevents the fence breaker in order to restore them to the way of goodness. He is standing before me to pray for the Aretz, for the land. Remember what it says, so that it won't be destroyed. Similarly, it is somebody like Moses. And here the Radak quote Moses. But before we get to the verse that he connected and he quoted Moses, I want you to understand what the Radak is telling us here. It says, maybe there is a man who will be able to stand in the gap for us so that the wickedness will not pass. Why do you think that the wickedness of Hamas was able to pass? The only reason it was able to pass, because the wickedness of Hamas, violence, is already inside Israel. It has been inside Israel all along. The way Israel treats Israel is in the spirit of Hamas. And I don't want to equate Chas v'chalo shalom, what the physical organization of Hamas has done to what is happening inside of Israel. But I want to tell you this, that the same baseless hatred, the same DNA is already come inside Israel in a sneaky way. The same spirit that trying to remove the authority from God from the heaven is already has been put into Israel. And the Mashiach, similar to Moshe Rabbeinu, somebody like Moshe, has the responsibility to stand for the Aretz, stand for the people. Who will today stand for Israel? The Prime Minister? I don't think so. The Knesset? I don't think so. The rabbinic authority? No, I don't think so. They are just as corrupt. Who will stand for Israel today? And God says the sign of the last days is that nobody will be able to stand within Israel for Israel. Understand this. But here the Radak leaves us with an important word in connection to Isaiah. And in connection to Ezekiel 22:13, and in connection to the Psalm, as he quote from Psalm 106:23. Who is this person that we are looking for? Listen to what he say. Vayomer להשמידם, לולי משה בחירו, המד בפרץ לפניו, להשיב חמתו מהשחית. He would have destroyed them had he not, if he's not had Moses, his chosen one, confronted him in the breach to avert his destructive wrath. Another Moses. We need today, brothers and sisters, another Moses. If Israel had today somebody like Moses, somebody like Moshe Rabbeinu, who said it, he says in Deuteronomy, stood in the heaven and stood in the earth in the behalf of the people, none of this would ever happen. And here the text says that Moshe himself was able to stop this from happening, to stop the plagues. And a matter of fact, listen to what the Ramad says on Psalm 106:23. I found it very interesting. It says, and although those who have made the golden calf forgotten everything, and they walked, and I'm paraphrasing from the Hebrew, and they walked after the vanity and became vain themselves, to the point that they were justified a complete destruction. If it wasn't for the prayer of Moshe that was able to fence the breach of Israel that was created by the sin, and to return the wrath of God, not to give the justification to the destroyer himself, to destroy Israel, God forbid. We see the word, he would have destroyed him had Moses, he is not chosen one, not confronted him. That's what he says. It is known, it says. Listen to the Ramad. It is known that if there is no judgment, if there is no din below, there is a din above. Therefore Moses was hurrying to do a din on earth through the sons of Levi. And even though from the days of the golden calf, he have done a repair of the breach so that there will not be destruction, similar to the action of Pinchas, who have done din below, and the plague inside of Israel stop. That the mighty one of Israel was required the prayer of Moshe to restore the Chema and to say, I will not destroy them. Because he was willing and ready to destroy them, as the Torah was saying. But God, he did not want Israel to be destroyed, his own son. That's why he says, Vayomer la'ashmidam, meaning he would have, the Yomer, he spoke it, he did not command it. Why God did not command it? He spoke it because he was looking for the faithful shepherd to go and to bend the spiritual breach in his prayers and in his word. It is known, according to the Midrash, that Israel, when they stood on Mount Sinai, the Zohamah, the filth of the world, have stopped. Why Israel? Why Israel? Why Israel is being attacked right now? That's why. Because if Israel return to God and the Geulah come, the filth will be stopped in the entire world. The Hamas will be defeated. You have to understand. The nations are not important. What's important in Israel? Hamas is a tool of the adversary that come right now to stop Israel from becoming Israel to Hashem. Because if Israel becoming Hashem to God, that means that the entire humanity is victorious. Understand what I'm telling you, dear. This is important. There is a din, this expression that I use again and again here, that Chazal teaches is so important. I want you to learn it. Ein din lemata, yesh din lemala. If there is no din and righteousness and right and wrong below, then what? There's a bigger judgment coming from the heaven. Understand this. And what we have experienced right now is still not the din from above. The din from above, what is awaiting for us, unless we will make a din from below, and a din below is by having good shepherds right now, standing in the gap. Look at this. According to the Midrash, we can say that when Israel stood on Mount Sinai, the filth, the Zohamah, in all of humanity stopped. And there was a great tikkun. As the Lord brought the world back to Genesis 1:1, prior to the sin of Adam. But then, when they made the golden calf, all the filth came from before. And the kilkul, an important word, the kilkul, the filth, the root of the filth, is been renewed in greater vigor, that it will not be repaired ever again until the Messiah is coming. Wow! Until the Messiah is coming from the zera of Peretz. Brothers and sisters, again, I want you to hear the Ezekiel 22:30 one more time. And I sought somebody among them to repair the wall, to stand in the Peretz before me. You see the word here, the Peretz? It's the same word that is used here by the Ramad. He is saying that the word Peretz is one of the words from the Mashiach. In essence, what the verse says, somebody better stand for the coming of the Mashiach in those days. And somebody better act in such a way to prepare the world to Mashiach, to repair this, and to truly expect his coming with the words, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. What does it mean, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai? It means we're ready. We prepare the world. Not for a Hamas, but for the coming of the Mashiach. Not to be a lover of ourselves, but to be a lover of Peretz. And how do we have a lover of Peretz? By fixing the Peretz. It's like that. His name is Peretz because it's designate what he's going to do. What Mashiach going to do? Like Moses. Like we learn right now, he's going to stand in the spiritual gaps for all of Israel. What should we do in preparation of the one who is called Peretz, the breacher? The one who is going to close all the breaches. We should do exactly what he should do. Fix every spiritual breach right now in our life today. We should close every breach in the house of Israel today. That's what we need to do. That means Lamod Baperet, for standing for the merit of Peretz. Listen to this. This is amazing. He says, the world was in perfection and Israel sinned again with the golden calf. And now it cannot be repaired until King Mashiach come from the Zera of Peretz. And that's the definition of the word Amad Peretz Lefanav. This is the word of Ezekiel 22:30. The reason that Israel was not able to see what is coming today it's because nobody stand for Peretz. Nobody stood really for Mashiach in the house of Israel. God have mercy upon us. We think it's because the IDF is not performing. No. It's because we don't have the Peretz with us today. And our hashgacha, our supervision is limited. God have mercy. Oh my God. Listen to this. Meaning that God reminded that the tikkun of the Peretz will happen in the future by the seed of Peretz. And we know who is the one from the seed of Peretz. His name is Yeshua. And this is the only remedy from taking the rat and returning away to the rat. Because all will be fixed in the generation of Peretz, in the generation of Mashiach. Between this and this, our Heavenly Father, who is merciful, he will take and will accept his sons, even if they are not fully repaired through Peretz. And then we will know the end. Beloved, today we need the Peretz more than anybody else. And not only that we need the Peretz, we need to take upon ourselves the identity of the Peretz. Meaning, do all the tikkunim that we absolutely have to do in our life. So what do we need? What Israel needs? Brothers and sisters, put in a big bullet point for you today. To stand, we need another Moses to stand in the gap for Israel. You remember what the Malbim says? What Hashem is looking for in the world. What is Israel is needing right now. The wall has been breached in Gaza, brothers and sisters, because we are lacking zchut, because we are lacking the merit. That's why it is been breached. And you have to know the truth of those things. You see, in Genesis 1:1, it says a verse that all of you understand. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. And then it's talking about the Tovavo. And in chapter 2, it says, Vayachulu hashamayim va'aretz. And then we see the name of the Lord mentioned, but it does not mention as Elohim. He is mentioned as Yod, Hey, Vav, A. What is the difference, brothers and sisters, between the name Elohim and his literal name? Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, the name that we are not pronouncing. The difference is that each name of God represents his different attributes. Understand that. The name Elohim is an attribute of judgment, always. Vayachulu hashamayim appear with Yud Vav. Why? Because think about it. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. What he created first? He created the heavens. What is the primary attribute of the heavens? The primary attribute of the heavens is judgment. Judgment. In the world above, the world of judgment. But when he created the haaretz, vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz, when God created the earth, it says Yodei Vavei, which is different. Is judgment 50%, but also mercy 50%. God has combined judgment and mercy with much more mercy when he created us and when he created the earth, not like the heaven. He's created all those things in the middle of mercy. So what is he doing right now? Rather than just destroying all humanity, he is giving us an opportunity to similarly to enter to the ark. He opened a breach. He let Israel suffer as a warning so that Israel can run to him. The Teva, the ark, is like this closed letter mem. He said to Israel, run to me now so that you will have the merit. I don't want to be Elohim to you. I want to be Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey to you. What is the opening in conclusion for today's shiur? What is the opening of this mem revealed to us? Now you understand what is this opening mean. Lack of merit. But what is it really is telling us today is two principles that I want you to take to the bank. Number one, the opening of the fence revealed to us the mem, meaning God appearance is imminent. The open mem, it's meaning God appearance is imminent. We need to understand it. The open mem is mean it's imminent. His return is imminent, and all of Israel understand it. And conclusion number two, the fence was not open because of Hamas. Not the physical terror of Hamas at least. But first and foremost, this fence was opened because of lack of merit or lack of a good shepherd in the house of Israel today. That is what we have to pray for the shepherd, the good shepherd, to return back to Israel for the merit. And may Israel will have many, many acts that bring merit to the entire state of Israel. The lack of merit, brothers and sisters, is the reason where we at today